Dave said, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I view it, CSA, from the risk management perspective. I swear, I think our firm spent more time preparing for CSA than we did Y2K. We don't even have trucks. I've got a very good team of people that have been skilled in digging in, learning the intricacies, the technical aspects of CSA, and it's allowed me to do something different. What I've done in my curiosity about CSA with motor carriers is, how are you going to manage this? How are you going to manage this animal? And when I've been going around for the last year, just asking that simple question, how are you going to manage this? And the answer, and what I've heard, is what I want to talk about. I've got 4 basic topic areas. First, I'm going to address that insurance question that Dave talked about. And then I'm going to look at how have we managed risk in the pre-CSA era. And then how does CSA change the game? And then finally, how are we going to manage risk going forward in this new CSA world? So the insurance question. How will CSA impact insurance and underwriters? I guess that means, how much more is this going to cost me? Okay? Before we can answer that question, I think we really got to look at, how do underwriters think? When they come up with their rate, what are they thinking about? And as an insurance broker representing the motor carrier industry, the 2 things that we try to make sure that they're very clear on, the underwriters, is that they understand how you're managing your risk and what are your results. Now, your results are in the past. That's the data that's out there, your accidents, your safe stat scores, your CSA now. There's not much we can do about that. That's in the past. So we focus in on how are we going to manage risk going forward. So when we talk about managing risk, I think there's 3 wicked risk management problems that we're facing and struggling and grappling with in the motor carrier industry. The first one is dealing with compliance risk that's really being driven by CSA. I mean, that's really why we're here today. That's the new thing that we're dealing with in our world. But there's a dirty little secret here that I want to share with you in a little bit, but it's not just about compliance. The second wicked problem is better managing and improving driver performance. And when I first started talking about this, I really expected a little bit of kickback. You know, that's an operations thing and not a risk thing. But to my surprise, and I'm pleased to see that no, this is truly a business risk. If we aren't managing our drivers and we're not getting better performance, then it's a wicked problem. And a third one is identifying and predicting accidents and high-risk profiles. The crystal ball. Wish we all had it to be able to say, oh, this particular driver or this situation is going to be high risk. And the nice thing about this is we're all very skilled at this. We can do this at 100% accuracy. The problem lies in our timing. It's usually after the fact. It's after the fact that we can say, oh, that was a high-risk driver or situation. So those are the 3 wicked problems. And how we dealt with those, how we managed those in the pre-CSA area. And these are some of the things that I've heard, but for the most part, we focused in on lagging indicators. So we look at what's happening, I mean, good risk management principles, look at what's happening, look at the data, and then come up with a program, try and make it better. But below the waterline, these are some of the things that I'm hearing when I'm out there talking, and that is safety and operations are not collaborating. I talked about one of those wicked problems earlier about driver performance and safety. They go together. But yet what we're seeing is safety and operations, or risk and operations, don't have the tools, they don't have the purpose to get together and collaborate on how to solve these problems. Drivers, you know, they're out there trying to decipher these conflicting goals. You know, they've got get it there on time, get it there safely. Which is it? They're trying to figure this out. So the third one is driver managers and trainers. We go and ask the question of driver managers, how much time do you spend managing drivers or driver trainers? And the answer is surprisingly not enough. We ask them, well, how much is not enough? And they said, you don't even want to know. It's a really small percentage. They're not able to spend the time that they'd like to mentoring drivers. So all these things are starting to come in. We've got engine data. We've got all kinds of numbers that are flying at us. okay? And how are we able to take all this information and manage our drivers? We've got all these reports. There's no shortage of information, true? We have it all. The question is, how do we take that and start to apply it to those wicked problems? We have new communication tools. We have ways to communicate with drivers, but yet, why is it they don't know what's expected of them? We've got performance reviews that are generally done because we have to have them done. There's a reason to do them. We got to get them done. We got to get them in the file, but we're not looking at performance as closely as we are the compliance issues. So overall, information, we have too much information that I'm seeing that we can't even deal with what we've got. And we create this condition, a condition that I refer to as driver dyslexia, and that is the driver that operations loves them, but safety does not. Or maybe the more acute version, which is operations hates me, but safety likes me. So those are the kinds of things that we're seeing from drivers. And all this is squeezing our time, technology, compliance, squeezing the time that we have to spend with our drivers and our customers. Well, then comes CSA, okay, the game changer. So now we have all this complexity already, and we have more with CSA. We have new measurements to worry about, which we didn't have enough already, and yet another thing to manage, another thing to put into our process. So one of the things that I heard a lot when this first was announced, CSA from carriers, was, well, this isn't so bad, we'll weed out some of the weak carriers. And then I'll be able to get my rates back to where they belong. Well, the preliminary indications were not so rosy because it turned out 52% of fleets were unfit. So we knew that this CSA thing at first was announced, that there was going to be some changes and probably some flaws in how it was being measured. So the dirty secret. This is the dirty secret I mentioned earlier. CSA is less about compliance and more about transparency, more about accountability, and more about speed of information. We've all had compliance. Compliance is nothing new. It's changed a little bit, but what we haven't had to deal with, in my estimation, is this high level of transparency, high level of accountability, and the lightning fast speed this stuff flies at. It's coming at you really fast. So this driver dyslexia, the driver view of this is, I have safety on one side, I've got operations, I'm trying to make them happy, and then now staring right down their face is the third master, which is CSA. Now they have skin in the game. They have to keep their scores up. And so they're trying to balance all this out. So that's the stage. How are we going to manage risk going forward in the future? And I mentioned in the past we've used lagging indicators. What we're trying to do more and more, and I know you are in your business as well, is get to leading indicators. Instead of what's already happened, what can we see that's coming down our way that we can start to factor in to better manage our business? So looking more at leading indicators. And it's difficult because we've got all this complexity. So this quote is one of my favorites. And it's, making the simple complicated is commonplace, but making the complicated simple, that's creativity. And I think we have to innovate and be creative with how we're going to manage CSA. So what if we could come up with a simple solution that integrated or solves those three wicked problems with one simple solution? And if I go back to those three wicked problems, CSA compliance, safety, predicting accidents, and driver performance. Take those three things and combine them into one. If you did that, and I've seen this work, and I'm sure you have too, is coming up with a very customized scorecard of performance for drivers. And it's not just drivers, it's for everybody. It's perfectly aligned with your goals, visions of what you want your company to be, and it runs right up from the driver to the driver manager to the management level to the senior leadership. You have a very customized view of performance that matters to your company. How we go about doing this, or how you go about doing this, is basically getting down to those critical measurements, combining those three areas and saying what are the most critical metrics that we need to measure. And I don't mean 100. You know, you got to get down. It's simple but hard work to get down to the critical metrics. And then not every metric is the same, doesn't have the same impact, so we weight them, and then we come up with a score. And once you have a score, you have something to manage. This is an example of a scorecard. You probably have them. Almost everyone has scorecarding in your management system. This is a sample of a risk management scorecard of a driver. Now, if you're a driver manager and you had 50 of these, you could see it'd be very difficult to pick off what am I supposed to be focused on with this driver. So some of the things that we look at for, and again, it goes back to what's most important to you. But in safety and CSA, there's hard braking, high speeds, hours of service. There's miles, of course, there's miles and revenue. But there's all different kinds of metrics that you can filter through to determine what makes the most sense for you. There's administrative measurements, of course, MPG, DVIRs have become more important now with CSA. So those are some of the metrics that you could use. But at the end of the day, you've got this leading indicator dashboard. So as you're taking this information in using real time, you're able to better identify and predict what's happening to manage your risk. Because it's really about sustaining performance beyond CSA. We're not doing this because of CSA. It's just something that we want to build into our process so that we can manage it as well. So, my final thoughts. Use CSA as a catalyst to create transparency, accountability, and speed of information in your own company. CSA has done it to you. Take that and run it into your own company. And by you doing something like this with a scorecard, the things that we have found, there's 3 things that we've seen that really are critical to making that work. One is everybody has a score. 2 is the higher the score, the higher performance is for the company and profitability. And 3rd is visibility. Everyone has to know everybody's score. Okay? Just like CSA, everybody knows your score. In your company, that can work. It's disruptive. It can cause some heartache, but eventually the accountability goes up from there. So you can change the game, address those 3 wicked problems, create competition within your company and for performance, and get the results. Because as I said earlier, your results are what's going to determine what your insurance premiums are and how insurable you are to the underwriters. Thank you.